Denver is knocking on thousands of doors, asking for places for migrants to stay. Republicans are trying to impeach Colorado's chief elections officer, even if they're somewhat unclear why. Let's dig into why Xcel is quickly taking responsibility for a mega fire in Texas and still denying responsibility for the Marshall Fire here. If Colorado starts requiring credentials to clean up the funeral industry, the only school in the state that offers that degree could get busy. Fact.
People don't think about us until they have to.
Not everything on this program is life or death, except that. That totally is. Tonight on Next. Denver is making an unprecedented outreach to the 14,000 landlords in this city, giving them the option to identify their lowest cost rentals that might be within the budget of migrants looking for a place to live. Our Angeline McCall has been reporting on Denver's effort to help migrants for months. And Angeline, this is something new, and it's probably too soon to tell if landlords will really be interested.
Yeah, new as of this week, Kyle. The city is asking landlords with units under $2,000 per month to consider renting them to migrants. In fact, like you said, they sent a letter to 14,000 landlords in their system telling them about this option. Now, here's the letter that's coming up that was sent out to everyone who is in the city's system as owning a rental. That letter then linked to the city URL where interested landlords can include their information. Once property owners submit the form, the city will do its outreach to connect that landlord with a migrant family or individual. A spokesperson from Denver Human Services says this is not the city forcing people into this, nor is it a promise that they will pay for this housing in any way, and they aren't offering to help when it comes to the cost of rent either, although it is possible that nonprofits could offer some sort of financial support. In just 48 hours, DHS has received around 100 submissions from landlords on their site.
A lot of good people who also just think this is smart business. I've got a family. If I have a family that is getting steady employment, they have a vested interest in making sure they make this work. They're not going to do anything to get kicked out. They want to take care of their small children. I think a lot of folks are just going to say this is just good business.
Denver has not asked any other cities for their landlord contact information. As far as a list of low-cost rentals, that would be of high interest to people from all walks of life who may be lower income, perhaps homeless, for instance. We asked the city if this could potentially lead to connecting people besides migrants who may really benefit from an organized program like this. John said maybe they should. He added that if there are more units than migrants who may need them, they could end up looking to others who could lean on the same resource.
So this is really a desperate city, Angeline, that's just trying to figure out what is out there so they know what resources would be out there. But we should make clear this is separate and apart from the resources available to citizens in terms of low-income or subsidized housing.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you'll hear from critics about this program, right, is like, well, this is something that everyone should have opportunity for. Well, these are migrants who don't have opportunity to get into Section 8 housing, other low-income housing opportunities, because those are people who are citizens or residents or have temporary residency or permanent residency. And so this would really be the lowest cost rental at full market price for migrants specifically.
Angeline McCall, thank you. Ears in Colorado and across America will be listening tonight to see what President Joe Biden says about the border crisis and the migrants filling cities like Denver. Wouldn't it be something if Denver's situation is mentioned in the State of the Union after Colorado's governor completely ignored it in the State of the State address? Right now, Biden is calling on Donald Trump, the presumptive Republican nominee for president, to join him in supporting a bipartisan border security bill. Republicans killed that bipartisan bill last month after Trump told them not to give Biden a win on the issue. Democrats in Colorado had hoped that bipartisan compromise would include funding for cities like Denver, which are struggling to fund migrant services. State of the Union will air live on 9 News at 7 o'clock. I'll break down potential impacts on Colorado on 9 News at 9 and 10. Well, that snow that we've been talking about all week has not done much around the Denver area yet. Could make tomorrow's commute a little slick. They are getting it way out east. Fleming, Logan County, population 428 people and 9 inches of snow. Crash has closed I-70 from Sterling to the Nebraska line, Highway 34, brush out to the Kansas border for a bit. Those are both now back open. Kathy Saban's watching for snow, west and east of the metro area.
That's right. Eventually, Kyle, the snow will move into Denver, but I'm so happy that the evening drive is underway without many issues at all. It's a different story for those headed up into the high country across the foothills and out where Corey Reppenhagen has been all day in northeastern Colorado. The storm moves out in time for your weekend, but it's between now and then. Things could get a bit dicey. We have no issues on the roadways now with cloudy skies. There's a bit of an icy glaze along the foothills with some freezing fog in areas like Boulder and some snow showers there, and a bit of snow across the Continental Divide. A whole lot colder today. The front moved in this morning. We've held in the 30s for much of the afternoon. This system is winding its way over northeastern Colorado, where we've seen rain, ice glaze, and still heavy snow, and the snow is continuing to fill in west of I-25 above 6,000 feet. Some of this will move into Denver overnight. We're not under any type of winter weather advisory, as the foothills are, for 3 to 8 inches of snow, and there is a winter storm warning for northeastern Colorado for another 5 inches of snow on top of the 10 inches they've seen there. So scattered snow showers are still a part of our forecast during the overnight time period, less than an inch expected. But if we see another round during the morning drive, that will certainly be impactful. Storm moves out by about lunchtime. We won't see clearing tomorrow. It's going to be a chilly afternoon with temperatures in the 50s, but the snow for the metro area does not look like to be the big event as we thought. It's going to stay in the foothills and out on the northeastern plains. Snow ends in Denver by 11 o'clock with clearing, but a chilly Friday. Sunshine and 50s Saturday, 60s for the weekend. Next storm and chance for snow a week from today. And don't forget, daylight saving time begins this weekend. Spring ahead. Set those clocks ahead 1 hour when you go to bed Saturday night.
Our next conversation tonight is with the Colorado Republican who's leading an impeachment effort that even he admits will fail. House Republicans in Colorado don't have the votes to pass anything. They're badly outnumbered. But they're now trying to impeach Democratic Secretary of State Jena Griswold. Why? That's kind of unclear, even after I spoke with Republican Representative Ryan Armagosa Berthud, who did kind of admit why they're actually doing this. What has the Secretary done that qualifies as high crimes or misdemeanors or malfeasance?
I think the biggest reason behind this is that she's used her personal feelings and accusations to have a candidate removed from the primary ballot.
Did she have him removed from the primary ballot?
No, but she was behind the effort that went through Colorado Supreme Court and then up to the U.S. Supreme Court where it was ruled down.
So, in actuality, there were Republicans and unaffiliated voters who were anti-Trump, who sued to get Trump off the ballot. She was the one who was being sued, and then she complied with the court order. What did she do in there that warrants impeachment for high crimes, misdemeanors, or malfeasance?
Using her public and professional position to push that forward and promote it on a daily basis.
So therefore, what you're alleging is malfeasance for her stating her feelings about a court case?
Yes, essentially dereliction of her duty.
Okay. Is feelings a grounds for impeachment?
No, absolutely not.
Are you and other Republicans perhaps playing a dangerous game if you lower the bar for impeachment to just vibes?
No, not at all. This is a building where we're elected on partisan levels to argue and debate topics based on partisan politics. And the position of Secretary of State, where you are conducting and leading and protecting free and fair elections, bringing personal feelings and political agenda into that, does not present any kind of free and fair elections to the people of Colorado.
Let me pose the devil's advocate question. That person might say, there's absolutely no grounds for impeachment, that y'all just need something to show for the fact that you guys are up here taking it day after day because you have a super minority, you can't really do anything. And this is just something that you can throw to your base and say, look, we tried to impeach Secretary Griswold and it failed.
This is just something that we can say we're doing this, even though it might not be successful in the House. Our constituents can see we did it, but we can't do anything based on being the super minority. And that can also hopefully help us in the next election cycle.
Wait, you didn't just say you're impeaching her because it'll help you in the next election cycle.
No, I think this will get more people to come to vote so that we can get more people voting for what they think is right, knowing that they have people standing up in office for them. They need to get more people in office standing up for them.
Did you just say the quiet part out loud?
What's that?
Did you just say the quiet part out loud?
The quiet part out loud.
We'll move on. We did move on to why the Republican impeachment of Secretary Griswold might actually backfire by giving her the one thing that she's always been a master at gaining: public attention. That's in our full next conversation on the next YouTube channel. But if we're going to talk plainly with each other here, right? Like, let's explore this, along with exploring who actually benefits from headlines about impeachment. The impeachment effort against Secretary Griswold is a non-starter in the Democrat-controlled legislature. Democrats haven't even committed to bringing this up for a vote, and if they did, it would lose by more than 2-to-1 margin. Republicans are also now talking about a recall effort against Secretary Griswold. That might raise some money for organizers, but if you look at the history of recalls in Colorado, it is beyond unlikely. Now we have Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert piling on the Colorado GOP's threats to recall Griswold. And Griswold was more than happy to fire back at Boebert on social media. Hopefully, the headline writers putting this in the news today accurately note that none of this is going anywhere. And another thing, too. Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert and Democratic Secretary of State Jena Griswold are two very different politicians with one thing in common. They are attention-seeking missiles. They know how to attract attention. Cable news hits before highly partisan audiences on the left and on the right. All the ways to insert themselves into the news cycle at every turn. They know how to cultivate that attention and that outrage and how to turn it into fundraising and political power. Honestly, the only surprising thing about this first direct clash between Congresswoman Boebert and Secretary Griswold is that this has not happened sooner. So now there are these two politicians who happen to be on very different trajectories, right? Griswold is a rising star for Democrats. She could run for governor. Boebert, she alienated enough of her own Republicans in her formerly safe seat that she's had to move across the state to find a safer seat. But in this current fight they're having in the headlines, Boebert and Griswold are united in seeking your attention, your outrage, and if you're so inclined, your donation, if you choose to give it to them.
You really don't like a few terrible cases putting a black eye in the industry.
The one school in Colorado that offers a degree for people in the funeral business could be a busy place if the state starts regulating that industry. And there's a reason that Xcel is admitting that it sparked an enormous fire in Texas, but will not say the same about Colorado's Marshall Fire. Xcel Energy is quickly fessing up that its equipment appears to have started the largest fire in Texas history. It's quite the contrast to Xcel's years of denials that it's had anything to do with Colorado's Marshall Fire. Investigators say Xcel certainly did. So why such different responses? A fire litigation attorney who's represented victims in more than 30 wildfires, including in lawsuits against Xcel in Colorado and Texas, says he thinks that it's about evidence and liability. He says Xcel is likely admitting some liability for its power line starting Texas's Smokehouse Creek fire because refusing that could open them up to lawsuits, not just from homeowners, but shareholders too.
Because if they give false information that is relied upon by shareholders, then they can be sued for that. And I think with Marshall, they thought they had a chance of getting away with it. Here, I think the evidence was overwhelming that one of their polls failed. And so because of that, I think the calculation that they made was that it would be more dangerous to lie.
So I want to be really clear here. Xcel is admitting liability, but not admitting negligence in the Texas fire. And it denies both liability and negligence in Colorado. Xcel's facing nearly 300 lawsuits by homeowners and government agencies for the Marshall Fire. Investigators say that Colorado's most destructive fire back in 2021 was likely caused in part by an Xcel power line. Xcel told shareholders in an earnings call last year that they are bracing for major payouts in lawsuits over the Marshall Fire, potentially amounts beyond Xcel's $500 million worth of insurance coverage. They are teaching about the business of death, not like in a creepy way, like in a very helpful way. And if Colorado starts regulating funeral homes after scandal, these are the folks who are ready to help. Colorado's funeral industry is in the news lately for all the wrong reasons. The scandals, the rogue operators, not for all the folks in the business who do things the right way, the ethical way. Colorado may soon require funeral directors to get a license to do the job. Catch, though, there's only one school in the state that offers that degree. Our Evan Krugel paid him a visit.
Someone want to step in and do that for me?
On the Arapahoe Community College campus,
These are like your last minute details.
Ron Sherling's class is in session.
Your buttons are covered.
But the coursework here
That nod is excellent.
is a bit different than what you'd find in a traditional classroom.
This is how we usually get an arm under here.
As Sherling instructs his students
Lift on 3, 1, 2, 3, and now we'll just shuffle over.
how to safely stage a body in a casket.
And that's perfect.
The mortuary science program is the only one in Colorado where the funeral business has been in the spotlight of late.
More than 115 bodies were found improperly stored in a funeral home in Penrose.
Investigators found remains of 30 or more people in a home.
You know, it's something that I brought to students, and it's like, okay, let's talk about current events. Let's talk about what's going on in the news. How do you feel about that? Are you okay with that? Do you have any opinion about it? And the overwhelming response of, yeah, we're not okay with that. This is why we're here. This is what we want to change.
And change could be coming to this industry as Colorado lawmakers discuss a bill that would require a license to do this work. Colorado remains the only state in the country where anyone can run a funeral home.
We're kind of the odd man out with that.
Faith Haug runs ACC's mortuary science program, where students learn everything from casket protocol
But let's take off some of this, okay?
to facial reconstruction.
We're just gonna get some of that chunk off.
It's a degree she admits the public knows little about.
I think they have no idea. Why would they? They don't, I mean, it's not something that people don't think about us until they have to.
But she says the broad curriculum is something everyone in this field should know.
Things like microbiology, pathology, law.
All things funeral directors would be required to learn by attending a program like this one under the new proposal.
You learn how to take an immense amount of pride in your work.
For obvious reasons, Sherling says the death industry will never go away.
So we have our hinge here.
As a new generation looks to ensure families receive proper care in their most vulnerable moments.
There you go.
Now, the program is quite competitive. Only about 25% of applicants get in every year, and only about 50 students graduate. That applicant number obviously could spike if the state votes to require licensure. Kyle?
How in the world would they handle that kind of demand if presumably a lot of people turned in, say, for the degree or the certification?
They say those conversations are just beginning. They certainly could scale up, but at the end of the day, they say no matter what, they want to keep those strict admission guidelines, make sure only the best get into the program.
Yeah, they've kind of been Colorado's gold standard and only standard for a very long time. Interesting stuff. Evan, thank you very much.
You bet.
Our video editor, Aurelie Moore, has the feedback tonight. Oh, it's a crowded desk this evening. Look at this, folks. Teamwork.
Lots of options.
Makes the dream work. Your feedback on a commentary that probably pleased no one. Next. I can't believe that we got one positive comment on a commentary that criticized a Republican and a Democrat at the same time, but it happened. Teresa wrote in and said, "Thank you for your clear perspective on Griswold and Boebert." Karen writes in tonight to say, "Well, I'm glad that migrants are being looked after as best as possible." She said, "I'm quite disheartened that homeless people have been left hanging." Well, Karen, certainly not in Denver, because we have reported extensively on the city's effort to house 1,000 people at great cost last year. Opinion on that program can vary, but certainly those folks have not been left hanging. Ryan says, "You prove how important local news reporters are." Oh, that's really nice. Tim, "You're an absolute clown, Kyle, you toddler-looking commie." It's good to be back.